الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Welcome back everyone to our reading of this great book of Islam, the Risala of Imam Al-Qushayri radiyallahu anhu. We are in the middle of the section of Tawakkul, reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will begin on the top of page 182. Hope inshallah that we can finish the section in today's class. قال المصنف رحمه الله ونفعنا بعلومه في الدارين آمين. So Imam al-Qushayri, he says, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy on him and may we benefit from his knowledge in this world and in the next. A man came to Al-Shibli to complain to him about his large family. Al-Shibli retorted, go back to your house and expel from it anyone whose sustenance is not obligatory for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, you know, Allah Ta'ala is the one that's providing, and you have to provide through you, you have to provide for these people. I heard Sheikh Abu Abdurrahman al-Sulami rahimahullah say, I heard Abdullah ibn Ali say, I heard Ahmed ibn Ata say, I learned from Muhammad ibn Hussein that Sahl ibn Abdullah said, whoever condemns stirring oneself to earn a livelihood condemns the Prophet's custom, the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, because he worked. And whoever condemns trust in God to provide for him condemns faith. I also heard a Sulami say, I heard Ahmed ibn Ali ibn Ja'far say, I heard Ja'far ibn al-Khuldi say, Ibrahim al-Khawwas said, I was on my way to Mecca when I met a wild-looking person. I said to myself, is this a man or a jinn? He answered, I am a jinn. Where are you headed? I asked him. He said that he was going to Mecca. I asked him, did you travel without any provisions? And he said, yes, amongst us too are those who travel putting their trust in Allah. I asked him, what then is trust in Allah? He answered, taking your provisions from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, from the jinn there are believers and disbelievers. I heard a Sulami say, I heard Abu al-Abbas al-Baghdadi say, I heard al-Farghani said, Ibrahim al-Khawwas excelled in the art of trust, meaning trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and attained a great sophistication in it. However, he never parted with a needle and a thread, a begging bowl and a pair of scissors. Someone asked him, Abu Ishaq, why do you carry all these things while you abstain from all other things? And he answered, things like these do not contradict trust in Allah, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made certain rules obligatory for everyone. Thus, a dervish has but one piece of clothing, which may be torn. If he does not have a needle and a thread, his private parts are exposed and his prayer becomes invalid. And if he has no bowl, his ablutions may be corrupted, meaning he might lose his wudu. Therefore, if you see a poor man who has neither bowl nor needle nor thread, be wary of a perfection of his prayer. So this last story, it's a little archaic, but it's very indicative to the theme, right? And the lesson and the teaching of that Islam teaches us about tawakkul. To have reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not negate the obligation of taking the means that are required to get from point A to point B. So, you can't just have nothing and do nothing and then say, oh, this is reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's not the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Rather, we need to take the things that are required of us and the means that are required in life for all of our tasks. And then as we take those means, we put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I heard the Master Abu Ali Daqqaq rahimahullah say, trust in Allah Ta'ala is the characteristic of the ordinary believer, surrendering oneself to Allah is the characteristic of the elect, and relegating one's affairs to Allah is the characteristic of those who have achieved unity with God. I mean, we talked about unity with God, there's no unity with God, and it's a bad translation. So the basic tawakkul is what's required as a minimum for all believers. Relegating one's affairs, not really worrying about what will happen, but putting all of that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would be a higher step. Afwan, surrendering oneself to God. So to surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means that that friction is not there in how we experience the things that are happening to us. Something bad happened, I'm surrendering to Allah, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, and I'll be patient. And then to go beyond that, to relegate one's affairs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is to desire not to desire. So you're not even wanting this outcome or that outcome. It's all with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are going to do what you need to do because that's the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and then whatever happens, happens, and it's okay because you're not focused on that, you're focused on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That would be the highest level. In other words, trust in Allah ta'ala is the characteristics of the common folk, surrendering is the characteristic of the elect, and relegating is the characteristic of the elect of the elect. I also heard Ad-Daqqaq say trust is the characteristic of the friends of Allah ta'ala, surrendering is the characteristics of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and relegating is the characteristic of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And the connection between the spiritual states and the stations of the Anbiya is a very common theme in Tasawwuf, especially in the writings of somebody like Ibn Arabi, Shaykh al-Akbar radiyallahu anhu. It doesn't mean that some prophets are better than others, because لا نفرق بين أحد, we don't distinguish between the Anbiya. That if there is a distinction, that distinction is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala determined. Of course, we say and we believe that the greatest of all of the prophets, and indeed the greatest of all creation, is Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But we say that and believe in that without negating the sanctity and the infallibleness, etc., of all of the Anbiya. However, there are certain character traits of each of the prophets that you can say this is a Musawi type of person, or an Abraham-like type of person, or a Christ type of person. So that's what he's doing there. It was just a little kind of vignette in that. He doesn't do it a lot in the book so far, but in the writings of Tasawwuf, that is done frequently. Continue with the text. I heard Muhammad ibn al-Hussein say, I heard Abu al-Abbas al-Baghdadi say, I heard Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Farghani say, I heard Abu Ja'far al-Haddad say, for more than 10 years, I lived in the state of trust in Allah Ta'ala while working in the bazaar. Every day I would receive my wages, but I did not use this money even to pay for a drink of water or for the admission fee to the public bath. Instead, I would bring this money to the poor folks who resided at the Shuniziyya mosque. In this way, I preserved my state of trust. So he's trying to disassociate himself with relying on the material and rather relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I heard Muhammad ibn al-Hussein say, I heard Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Shadhan say, I heard Al-Khawwas say, I heard Al-Hussein, brother of Sinan say, I made 14 pilgrimages to Mecca in the state of trust, barefoot. Whenever a thorn entered my foot, I would remind myself that I had imposed trust in Allah Ta'ala upon myself, so I would rub in the thorn against the ground and walk on. I also heard him say, I heard Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the preacher Al-Wa'ith say, I heard Khair al-Nasaj say, I heard Abu Hamza al-Baghdadi say, when I have a vow to practice trust in Allah Ta'ala, I'd be ashamed before Allah Ta'ala to entrust the desert with a full stomach, lest my journey should rely on my prior satiety, with which I had equipped myself in advance. Someone asked Hamdun al-Qassar about trust in God, and he answered, this is a stage that I have not reached yet. How can one who has not yet perfected his faith speak of trust in Allah Ta'ala? They say that the one who trusts Allah Ta'ala is similar to an infant who knows nothing but his mother's breast, which he always seeks. So that's also another nice, also a very good example of an infant who has no other disposition other than to trust. Trust is the nature of the infant. Trust is that my mom is going to be there to hold me, to feed me, to change me, to comfort me, to put me to sleep, to bathe me. I mean, it can't do any of those things for itself. If you think about it, that's how we are all the time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because whether we have faith or little faith, a lot of faith or little faith, whether we are good or we are bad, Allah Ta'ala continues to provide life for us, sustenance for us, Jalla wa ala. So that's a very good also example to think about, that actually we are those infants all the time, from the moment we are born until the moment we die. Likewise, one who trusts Allah Ta'ala is always led to his Lord Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. One of the Sufis related, I was in the desert walking before a caravan. When I saw someone in front of me, I hurried to catch up with him and saw a woman with a staff in her hand walking slowly. I thought she was exhausted, so I reached into my pocket and brought out 20 dirhams. I told her, take this and wait until the caravan catches up with you. You should then pay your fare with this money and catch up with me in the evening so that I could arrange everything for you. She said as she raised her hand in the air like this, and suddenly I saw, she said, as she raised her hand in the air like this, and suddenly I saw dinars in her palm. You take dirhams out of your pocket. Al-Jayb, pocket in Arabic is Jayb, and I take dinars out of the unseen, Al-Ghayb. In Arabic they rhyme. So the dirham is silver coin, the dinar is a gold coin. So she's saying, you're giving me, in like English we would say, you're giving me pennies from your pocket, but she went like this, I have dollars from the unseen. So she has reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once Abu Sulaiman al-Darani saw a man in Mecca who would live on nothing but some water from the Zamzam well. And there's many stories of even from the times of the companions and saintly people who lived in Mecca for a duration of time only drinking from Zamzam. Many days elapsed. One day nothing but some water from, many days elapsed. One day Sulaiman asked him, if the water of Zamzam were to dry up, what would you drink? The man jumped to his feet, kissed Sulaiman's head and said, may Allah Ta'ala give you a good reward. You have guided me all right, for I have nearly become a worshipper of Zamzam over the past few days. Ibrahim al-Khawas related, once on my way to Syria, I saw a young man of good manners. He asked me, would you like a companion? When I told him that I was hungry, he replied, whenever you are hungry, I will be hungry as well. We had stayed together for 4 days until something was given to us, and I invited him to partake of it with me. He responded saying, I have made a vow not to accept anything from intermediaries. I told him, you are meticulous indeed in your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He answered, none of your idle words. The stern judge is watching us. What have you to do with trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He then added, the least portion of trust is when you encounter sources of satisfying your needs, but your soul aspires nothing but Him who holds all sufficiency. Of course, these are all very, very lofty spiritual states. This is not something that one can emulate, but rather these stories, as I often mention to you, are here to drive the point home and to give us how the great people and the saintly people were able to achieve this. They say that trust in Allah Ta'ala is negating doubts and relegating all your affairs to the King of Kings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is. They say that once a group of men came to Al-Junayd radiallahu anhu and asked, where should we seek our sustenance? He answered, if you know where it is, go seek it there. They asked, do we have to ask Allah Ta'ala for it? And he told him, if you know that He has forgotten you, remind Him. Meaning, obviously, you don't have to ask Allah Ta'ala because He's constantly giving us. They asked, should we go home and sit there trusting in Allah? Should we not do anything? Just we'll do zero and that's trust? And he answered, testing Allah Ta'ala's generosity leads to doubt. Right? So the idea that trusting in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means not working, or trusting in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means not taking the means to certain ends, that is not our path. That is not our way. That's not what trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means. So the students are saying, so what's the trick? They asked. And then the trick is to give up all tricks, answered Al-Junayd, right? None of that. Work hard. Take all the means, prepare. Like the hadith we read before, tie your camel, tie your camel and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abu Sulaiman al-Darani told Ahmad ibn al-Hawari, Ahmad, the roads to the hereafter are many. Your master knows many of them except this blessed one named trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have not caught even a whiff of it. It is said that trust in Allah Ta'ala is to be sure of what is in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to despair of what is in the hands of people. It is also said that trust in Allah Ta'ala is emptying one's innermost heart of any thought of how one can secure one's livelihood. Someone asked Al-Muhasibi, rahimahullah, radiallahu anhu, about someone who places his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can he still have any desire? He answered, thoughts and concerns that spring from his human nature still occur in him, yet they can do him no harm. For in his abandonment of desire, he is reinforced by despairing of what is in the hands of people. So trust in Allah Ta'ala also means, it's kind of like a new discussion, is not trusting in what's in the hands of other people. So to see that the people that are around you are also from the sustenance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I got a job working for A, but A is being provided for by Allah Ta'ala. So A is just the means of me receiving my sustenance. It doesn't mean I disrespect A. It just means that I see that at the end of the day, I'm not relying on A, I'm relying on Allah Ta'ala. And this is just one of the means through which I'm being supported. It is said that when An-Nuri was starving in the desert, he heard a voice say, which thing do you love more, means of obtaining sustenance or sufficiency with what you have? And he answered, there's no goal higher than sufficiency. And he spent 17 more days without eating anything. So also being, being satisfied with what we have. We talked about that. That was a trait that came before. That's also part of tawakkul, is that to say, Alhamdulillah, I have what I need and I don't need any more. Abu Ali al-Rudhabari said, if after 5 days the poor man says, I am hungry, send him to the bazaar to tell him to work and earn the living. Well, this is a bad translation. Poor man here means al-faqir, means the person that wants to join the Sufis. So that's he missed the translation there. So meaning, if you want to tread the spiritual path and follow an order, for example, and then right away in the beginning, the disciple is like, I'm like hungry. Like, don't you guys eat? Like, where's the food? Like, they start talking like that. Then the path is not for them. Send them to the marketplace, right? Let them work, because that's what they should be focusing on. Meaning that the spiritual path, there is some difficulty in treading it in the beginning. And usually in the beginning of the spiritual path, the sheikh tests the disciple to see how serious they are, to see if they are going to, kind of hang with it or not. Of course, in the modern world, in today's world, I should say, that those tests take on slightly different meanings, and the tests are different. But this is what that was about. That was a little bit of a mistranslation. Okay. Abu Turab al-Nakhshabi once saw a Sufi who after having so let me get the lines are tricking my eyes. Okay. Abu Turab al-Nakhshabi once saw a Sufi who, after having fasted for 3 days, stretched his hand to a melon rind. He exclaimed, Sufism is not for you. Keep to the bazaar. Okay, so that's a better translation, the same meaning. Abu Yaqub, so tasawwuf, in the beginning of the spiritual path, there is a lessening of food and drink. There's a lessening of social intercourse, so social connections. There's a lessening of speech. There's a lessening of sleep. Those are the 4 types of things that usually the sheikh would test a disciple with to see, like, are you serious? Like, you want the spiritual path? Because if you can give up a little bit of these things, then you understand that it's important. Giving them up is important for spiritual progress. But if somebody comes to me, for example, and says, "I want to be your student," and I was like, "Okay, I need you to log out of your social media accounts, for the next couple weeks," and they're like, "What are you talking about? And they're like, okay, you're not going to be able to benefit." I'm just giving you a modern example of what that something of what we just read, what it would look like today. Okay. Abu Yaqub al-Aqta al-Basri said, "Once I went hungry for 10 days in the sacred precinct of Mecca. I felt very weak and my soul began to tempt me. I went to the valley to find something that would abate my weakness. Suddenly, I saw a discarded turnip lying on the ground. I picked it up. I felt that uneasiness entered my heart as if someone were trying to say to me, 'You have gone hungry for 10 days and in the end you found your happiness in a rotten turnip?' I threw it away, went to the sacred mosque, and sat there. Suddenly, I saw a non Arab man who sat in front of me and put before me a satchel, saying, 'This is for you.' 'Why have you chosen me?' I asked him. He responded, 'For 10 days we were at sea and our ship was about to go under. Each of us made a vow that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rescued us, we would give something as alms to the first person his eyes fell on amongst the inhabitants of Mecca. You are the first person I have met.' I asked him to open the satchel. When he opened it, I saw fine Egyptian cakes, shelled almonds, and cubes of sugar. I took a handful of each and told him, 'Take the rest to your kids. It is my gift to them. I have taken enough.' Then I said to myself, 'Your provisions were on their way to you for 10 days, and you were looking for it in the empty valley. Your risk, your sustenance is going to hit you, it's going to hit you. It's going to find you, it's going to find you. It's coming, it's coming. Whatever it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has for you. So part of tawakkul, part of reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to realize at the end of the day, man, it's coming to you. It's not like, don't you breathe down oxygen, every breath isn't your heart always beating, but that's also your risk, your life. It's coming, whether you don't think about it. They're involuntary things in the body. So the same way with your sustenance. So the person, that's why reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a spiritual station, because you have to understand, you can't, it's not like an equation that you're going to map out, or it's not like a map, like of geography. It's a thing of belief. You have to understand what he's, all these like story after story after story, that your rizq is going to come to you. Now it is coming to you. So focus on the one who's giving it to you. Don't focus on the sustenance itself. And you see how he only took a little bit, even though the story was miraculous. It was all for him, but even still, he only took what he needed to take. Okay. I Al-Qushayri, heard Sheikh Abu Abdurrahman al-Sulami say, I heard Abu al-Bakr al-Razi say, I was with Mimshad al-Dinwari when talk of debts came up. He said, once I had a debt which weighed heavy on my heart. In my dream, I heard a voice say to me, O miser, you have borrowed such and such amount from us. Borrow more. The borrowing is on you and the giving is on us. From then on, I never had any financial dealings with either a grocer or a butcher. Because the traditional world, you'd go to the grocer and the butcher and you would buy, and then you would pay them later. It's not like now where you can't like go to the grocery store and take stuff to your car and drive home and then I'll pay them later. No, you have to pay now. Back then in the traditional world, you would, it's a kind of like an ongoing thing. You would take the stuff because the meat was fresh, the food was fresh, and then inshallah at the end of the month you pay them like that. It is recounted afwan, that Bunan the porter, Al-Hammal, said, once I set out on a journey from Egypt to Mecca with some provisions. A woman approached me and said, Bunan, you are a porter. You carry your provisions on your back because you do not believe in Allah that Allah Ta'ala will provide for you. So I threw my provisions away. I continued on my journey without eating anything for 3 days. Then I found an anklet on the road and said to myself, I will carry it until I come upon its owner. Maybe he will give me something when I return it to him. Then the same woman appeared, afwan, yeah. Then the same woman appeared before me and told me, so now you are a merchant, you say. Maybe I will come upon its owner so that I could take something from him. She then threw a few coins at me, saying, spend them. They lasted almost until I reached Mecca. It is related that Bunan was in need of a slave girl to serve him. His need came to the attention of his friends, who collected her price for him and told him, here's the money. A group of slaves will come to you, and you will purchase the one who suits you most. When the group arrived, the opinions of all agreed on a certain woman, and they told Bunan, this one is right for you. The friends asked her owner what her price was. He answered that she was not for sale. When they pleaded with him, he said, this woman belongs to Bunan the porter. A woman from Samarkand wants to present her to him. So she was brought to Bunan, and she told him her story. Again, the idea is that your rizq is there for you, and it's coming to you no matter what. I heard Muhammad ibn Hussein say, I heard Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Makhzumi say, Ahmad ibn Muhammad ibn Salah told us, Muhammad ibn Abdun told us, Hassan al-Khayyat told us. I was with Bishr al-Hafi radiallahu anhu when a group of strangers came to his house and greeted him. He asked them where they were from. They answered, we are from Syria. We have come to greet you on our way to the Hajj, to the pilgrimage. He told them, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. They invited him to go with him. And he said, on three conditions. We do not carry any provisions with us. We do not seek anyone for anything. We do not ask anyone for anything. And if someone gives us something, we shall not accept it. And they answered, as for not carrying anything with us, yes. As for not asking for anything, yes. However, as for not accepting anything, we cannot do this. And he told them, you should set out with trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, providing for the pilgrims. Which not accepting, that's also something very high. I mean, normally we would say that that's acceptable, of course. He told him, you should set out with trust in Allah Ta'ala, providing for the pilgrims. He then told me, Hassan, there are three types of the poor. First, the poor one who does not ask, and if given anything would not accept it. This one belongs to those who subsist by their spirits. Second, the poor one who does not ask for anything, but if given anything would accept it. For such people, tables of food will be set in the precincts of paradise. And third, the poor one who asks for something and if given accepts only the bare minimum. His penitence is his benefaction. There's only 2 pages left, so I'm just going to read a little bit more. So I'd like to finish this section and not have to split it up again. So this just the 2 final pages, inshallah. Someone asked Habib al-Ajami, why did you give up trade? And he answered, I found the guarantor to be trustworthy, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is said that once upon a time, one man embarked on a journey carrying a loaf of bread. He made a vow saying, when I eat it, I will die. God dispatched an angel to him saying, if he eats it, provide for him. If he does not eat it, do not give anything to him. So the loaf remained with the man until he died. He did not touch it, and it remained intact. It is said to the one who enters into the arena of relegation of one's affairs to God, the object of his desire will be brought as a bride is brought to her husband. Because there's this complete reliance on Allah Ta'ala, so your rizq turns into this, kind of beautiful gift that is given to you. The difference between neglects, the difference between negligence and relegation is this. So what's the difference? Like, how do you know if you're relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or if you're just neglecting what you need to do? Your negligence concerns the rights of Allah Ta'ala, which is blameworthy, whereas relegation concerns your own rights, which is praiseworthy. So that which belongs to Allah Ta'ala, you're not going to be negligent of. But the things that come to you, that's when you realize our true nature is our incapacity to do things. We are only able to do because Allah Ta'ala allows us to do. Abdullah bin al-Mubarak radiallahu anhu said, whoever takes a fils, which is a very small amount of money, a small coin, worth of the haram has no trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I heard Muhammad ibn Abdullah as-Sufi rahimahullah say, I heard Nasr ibn Nasr al-Attar say, I heard Ali ibn Muhammad al-Misri say, I heard Abu Sa'id al-Kharraz say, once I went into the desert without any provisions. Suddenly I was overcome with need. At some distance I saw a caravan station. I rejoiced that I had reached my destination. Then I thought to myself, I have found respite and put my trust into something other than him. So I made a vow not to enter this way station unless someone carried me there. So I dug a hole for myself in the sand and buried my body in it up to my chest. In the middle of the night, the inhabitants of the way station heard a voice saying, O people of the way station, one of the friends of Allah Ta'ala has buried himself in the sand. Go to him. So a group of people came to me. They brought me out and carried me to the way station. I heard Sheikh Abu Abdul Sulami rahimahullah say, I heard Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Makhzumi say, I heard Ibn al-Maliki say, Abu Hamza al-Khurasani said, one year I went to the pilgrimage. As I was walking through the road, I fell into a well. My soul prompted me to cry for help. However, I said to myself, no, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I will never cry for help. Before I could finish with this thought, two men passed by the mouth of the well. One of them said to the other, come on, let's cover the mouth of this well, lest someone fall into it. They brought some reed and mats and blocked off the mouth of the well. I wanted to cry out, and I said to myself, I will cry to the one who is nearer to me than they. So I did not say a word. After a while, something came by and opened the mouth of the well and lowered its legs. It lowered its leg into the pit. So if it wanted to tell me, as if it wanted to tell me in a growl, hold on to me. When I realized that this was an invitation that came from Allah Ta'ala, I grabbed hold of it and it pulled me out. And lo, it turned out to be a lion. Then it went away. Suddenly I heard a voice saying, Abu Hamza, isn't this better? I have saved you from one peril by another. Because obviously the lion is dangerous. Which is also a subtle meaning of this story before we just continue it, is that sometimes the calamity, God forbid, which is also a type of risk that comes our way, saves us from something else. And that's oftentimes we don't see that because at the time of the calamity, we are consumed with the calamity, naturally. But what we have to also remember is that sometimes the bad things that happen to us prevent other worse things from happening to us. Anyway, as I continued on my way, I recited the following verses of poetry. I am afraid to show you what I try to conceal, while my innermost self reveals what my gaze relates to it. My shame before you forbade me to conceal my passion. By giving me undertaking of yourself, you allowed me to be rid of a veil between you and me. You treated me gently by exposing my outer self to my hidden one, and gentleness was achieved through another gentleness. You showed yourself to me in the realm of the unseen, as if you wanted to intimate to me that you were within my grasp. When I saw you, my awe of you made me feel lonely. Then you became my intimate friend by showing me your kindness and affection. You revived your lover after he had died from love of you. Thus, life and death rub shoulders. This is indeed a marvelous thing. I heard Muhammad ibn al-Hasan rahimahullah say, I heard Mansur ibn Abdullah say, I heard Abu Sa'id al-Taharti say, I heard Hudhayfa ibn al-Mar'ashi, a servant and companion of Ibrahim ibn al-Adham radiallahu anhu, say that someone asked him, meaning Ibrahim ibn al-Adham, what is the most marvelous thing you ever saw from him? Afwan. The Hudhayfa was asked about what was the most marvelous thing he saw about Ibrahim ibn al-Adham. And he answered, we were on our way to Mecca without finding anything to eat for many days. Finally, we reached Kufa and took shelter in a ruined mosque. Ibrahim ibn al-Adham looked at me and said, Hudhayfa, I see that you are hungry. I replied, yes, you are right. He asked me to bring him some paper and writing utensils. When I brought them to him, he wrote in the name of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, you are the one who was sought after in every state and pointed by every sign. And then he wrote these lines of poetry. I praise you and I thank you and I remember your name, and yet I am hungry, thirsty, and naked. These are 6 qualities. I am responsible for half of them, so take responsibility for the other half, O Maker. Should I praise anyone but you, I will be plunged into a raging fire. Hold back your servant from entering the fire. Me asking you is like being in the fire for me, and I wonder if you would force me to enter the fire. He gave that piece of paper saying, go out and do not allow your heart to attach itself to anyone except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Give this paper to the first person you meet. I went out, and the first person whom I met was a man on a mule. I gave him the paper. He looked at it and he started to cry. He then asked me, where is the one who wrote this? I answered that it was such and such in such and such mosque. He gave me a purse with 600 dinars, which is like 600 gold coins, a huge amount of money. When I met another man, I asked him who the man on the mule was, and he answered that he was a Christian. I returned to Ibrahim al-Adham and told him the story, and he told me, touch do not touch the purse, for he will soon be here. After a short while, the Christian indeed arrived. He prostrated himself in front of Ibrahim ibn Adham, and he became a Muslim. Okay, we'll stop here. Wallahu ta'ala a'la wa a'lam wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Mawlana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Any questions? Any questions, comments, concerns that people have? Okay, then we can end with that, inshallah, and we will continue, inshallah, next week. I'm just if Sister Zamruda can just I'm confirming that we don't have class on the 26th, correct?
26, we don't have the Friday Quran class. I don't know about your halaqa. That means the week is then off for halaqas.
I think so. I think we would take the 26th off. Yeah. So next week we have classes.
Sunday school is off too, and Friday Quran class is off too the other week.
Okay, khalas. Well, on our WhatsApp group I can confirm that. But
Okay,
next week we'll continue, inshallah. Okay.
thank you.
Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us, to keep us safe. And, I hope that also ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we continue to benefit from this book. I know that sometimes it feels it's story after story after story after story, but the stories are all giving us it's like different points of entry to the topic of what each little section is. So it's important. And the book is very important. And sometimes when you are just overwhelmed by story after story after story, eventually the meaning kind of just penetrates your heart. Like this long section on tawakkul, usually sections are a lot shorter. So ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to continue to benefit from this book and to give us the tawfiq, inshallah, to finish it, inshallah. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. اللهم صل أفضل صلاة على أسعد مخلوقاتك سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم عدد معلوماتك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك الذاكرون وغفل عن ذكره الغافلون. I'll see you all next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.